Hello everyone. I thought that I would make a walking tour of my layout so that people can maybe better understand my videos, to see how things connect to each other. I don't have a track plan, so this will be the next best thing. We are at the entrance to the layout, and this is the staging area in this room. The room is approximately 12 feet by 16 feet, and it's kind of an irregular shape. Anyway, the staging yard itself is 10 tracks that are through, plus a runaround track, and it represents all points west, the Okanagan sub, and everywhere east of Kamloops. The signal that you see here is the beginning of CTC. We're looking at the back of the signal, so we assume that this is Blue River, coming out of Blue River, headed westward towards this direction. On either side of the staging area there are shelves, two of these long shelves with 5 tracks on each, one on this side and one on the other side, where I keep a lot of equipment that is not being used during the operating session. These smaller shelves with all the engines on them, they are used for changing out locomotives, and this would be the western area. And this is where I keep the locomotives for the eastern area. I also keep the east cabooses over here where the 4 are lined up. West cabooses is part of this staging area that's inside the loop. And also on the right of the, or to the right of the cabooses, there are 3 tracks that are for CP interchange, and to the left of the cabooses, 3 tracks for the Okanagan sub. And then the rest of these tracks are used to stage trains that don't normally stay on the layout. Trains such as 411, 417, 413, 314, 410, any of those types of trains. So this is looking westward out of the staging area, and the signal is continuously lit because there's no approach track for it. So that is the signal departing Blue River. Then you go around the loop and end up coming down this way. The signal here that is dark, because it's an approach lit signal, that's the advanced signal to Evola, and the signal on the other side of the track, the single head signal, is the approach signal to Blue River. So we carry on around this area behind the retaining wall to keep trains from hitting the floor, which I've done previously. And the next place we end up at is Evola. So this is the east switch at Evola. Heading the other way out of the staging yard, we have a tunnel that goes through the foundation wall. It's a wooden basement, so all the main walls have a foundation wall. This track goes up behind the scenery and up to Kamloops Junction. And I have a little section of ABS between here and Kamloops Junction. The industries here are what I call the KB district, or downtown Kamloops. And we have a switcher that comes out of Kamloops and switches the 4 industries that we have here. And then the track, the second from the left, is the CP interchange. And here's the line car diagram for downtown Kamloops, all the KB spots. It also shows that the Okanagan sub runs along there. And following along here, we go through another tunnel through the same wall, and this is the east end of Evola siding, and as we come out on the other side we will be into the rest of the scenic portion of the layout. Here we are, continuing on through Evola. The cement plant is not prototypical, but with a little modeler's license I've placed it in here so that we have something to switch. Evola itself just had a backtrack, and I've also included here an oil spur. There's a track diagram for Evola. Once again, west is left, east is right. And the station at Evola. This station was built by a good friend of mine who's passed away. His name is Sonny Podiuk. Scratch built this out of wood and paper and a little bit of plastic for the windows, I guess, and sandpaper for the stucco. Here we are at the west end of Evola, and Evola to Vavenbee is hidden underneath the yard at Kamloops, so you don't see any of that track. However, there are signals in the fascia. This signal is the intermediate signal between Evola and Vavenbee, and it's the approach to Vavenbee. So it actually should be located about the center of the yard, but it's so congested there when we're operating, I put it here so people can see when they're leaving Evola what the indication is going to. This signal is similar to the one at the other end. This is the advance signal to Evola, and it should also be approximately halfway under the yard at Kamloops Junction. But when you are leaving Vavenbee, you can see what the indication is here before you have to get down to the Here we are at the east switch at Vavenbee, where the propane dealership is. And off to the right is the double-ended support track or back track at Vavenbee. And then the left, going off to the left off the siding, is the switching lead for the lumber mill. Here we have a track plan of Vavenbee with all the line car spots. There's the Vavenbee station, and you can see the lumber loading area as well as the chip loading area of the lumber mill. And across on the other side of the main track is the old platform spur, and that's at the west end. You've seen many shots of this area before. This is the intermediates between Vavenbee and Exloo. So you coming from Vavenbee, you come out of this tunnel and you're going uphill, across the bridge, over this small creek, and we go around the corner. This is the end of our peninsula, and on the other side of the tunnel we will come out along the river, coming up to the east switch at Exloo. Exloo siding is about 2 cars shorter than the normal length of train that I run. We do have some trains that are shorter, such as 562 or a 410 or 314 that's going to pick up at Evola. So kind of makes it a little trickier for the RTC or dispatcher to run trains. Exloo has an OCS spur off the main track, and it also has spur to BC fruit processors off the siding. This also is not very prototypical because there is no BC fruit place in Exloo. Line car spotting diagram for Exloo. And I forgot to tell you about Vavenbee. All Exloo, Vavenbee, and Evola. West is left, east is to the right, Kamloops in the staging area, west is to the right and east is to the left. Looking west towards the west switch at Xlu, and from Xlu into Kamloops Junction, it's all underneath the highway that runs behind Vavenbee. And here we are at the east end of Kamloops Junction, and that signal is at a place I call Bungalow M, and so all of the track from this signal over to Xlu is either behind the backdrop or underneath the highway at Vavenbee. And headed west into Kamloops, the main track goes along the backdrop. There are 3 long tracks, the first of which is where that VCR engine is. And those 3 tracks are all receiving departure tracks that can handle 20 car trains. The engine facility is on the right. This other train with the 5024 and the 4812, that's in track 3. And then the balance of the yard are shorter tracks where the caboose is sitting. That is track 4. It holds about 14 cars. Track 5, 6, and 7. So 4, 5, 6, and 7 are used for switching. 8 is the runaround. Then there's some industrial tracks at the other end. This is another shot of the engine facility. Where the cabooses are sitting, eventually I'm hoping to build the stores building that was in Kamloops, and also a 3-stall engine house, reminiscent of what was in Kamloops until a few years ago. And I only have 1 of the 2 water tanks that were in Kamloops Junction Station. I scratch built from plans and photos. And I only have half of the station because otherwise it would be too close to the main track. So I've cut everything off kind of midway lengthways on the station. This control panel for Kamloops Junction is left over from pre-DCC days. However, it's still very useful. I can turn the power off on all of the tracks around Kamloops, and it helps to eliminate some of the noise if you have lots of engines. For this layout, it's a pretty fair-sized yard and it's very flexible. So I'm quite pleased with how it operates. West towards the Ashcroft sub, on the left side, on the north side of the main track, are 2 industries. The plywood plant is the blue building, and the feed mill. On the right side, on the yard side of the main track, there's a platform track, and van cam, and then farther back is the lumber reload and a team area. Here's our line car drawing for Kamloops Junction. And if I leave it on long enough, you'll be able, well, you can stop the video if you want to figure out which tracks are which. And remember, on this, west is to the right, east is to the left. We're at the west end of the yard. That's the Ashcroft sub that goes off to the right in behind the trees. And the first signal there is an ABS signal that the little piece of ABS that I have between Kamloops and the staging yard. The Okanagan subtrains also go here. There actually should be a separate track that went over to Kamloops and connected with the CP, but I didn't have room for that. This is the bottleneck for all of my operating sessions. The space between Xlu and Kamloops Junction is about 2 to 2.5 feet, but there's a lot of traffic here, people switching in Kamloops. It is definitely a choke point, but everybody is quite good about it, and we managed to get a lot done in spite of the restriction. Prior to installing the signal system on my layout, we used timetable and train order operations for the operating sessions. The system was a lot of fun to use. Some people learned a lot about train orders, but it is time consuming and isn't very easy to use when trains operate so quickly. So I was very happy to get the signal system that Kevin Rudko of Signalogic Systems developed, and it is probably one of the best things I've done on the model railroad to improve the operations. This is the current timetable that I use. If you notice, it's dated April 30th, 1978, but that doesn't stop me from running trains that are normally seen in 2020. So, however, it's just a comparison with the old timetable and train order operations. As you can see, all of the schedules for the freight trains are gone. All that's left are the schedules for passenger trains. Here's a view of the CTC panel. The dispatcher's office is set up in a bedroom adjacent to the staging yard. And as you can see, it begins at Kamloops Junction on the top line and goes eastward to Exloo, Vavenbee, skips down the line to Evola and Blue River. So we have 3 CTC controlled sidings plus signals departing Kamloops and Blue River. The signal system operates right now, it's showing in ABS mode, and I'll set it up for CTC. Right now you see all of the signals are green on the main track because no switches are reversed. While the system changes from ABS to CTC, the signals will run time. All of the signals go back to stop indication, and it runs time for 4 scale minutes or 1 actual minute. So they should be coming in solid red here pretty soon, and the green bars will disappear. In this mode, I control all of the signals that are shown, but there are signals, intermediate signals between Exloo and Vavenbee, and between Vavenbee and Evola and Blue River, which are automatic. I don't control them. To line a switch, you just have to click on the switch location and it will send the indication out to the field, and when it is in solid, then it comes in as a solid white. And then to normal it up again, you just click again. In order to line a signal, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can click on the 2 consecutive signals and it'll line a signal that way, and it comes in solid. If I wanted to run a train into the siding, then I can click on the first one and then the signal in the siding. It will automatically line the switch and then line the signal in to follow. None of my sidings are bonded, so that's why they show up as gray unless there's a signal lined into it. In order to cancel a signal, you right click on the signal that's lined, click on cancel, and it'll run time. These signals run time for 4 scale minutes. Once the time runs off, the signal green bars will disappear, signal turns back to solid red, and this little red dot locking the switch will disappear. To enter a train, you right click on the gray area at Kamloops Junction. You'd enter the train ID and click the occupied box and OK. I'm going to do that, so I'll be away from this for a minute. So there you have 314 entered at Kamloops. When he's ready to depart, he will show up in this block. I can line this signal and he's ready to go over to to Exlu. Pretty simple to do, not so easy when you have lots of traffic out there. The way freights are very much in the way when you're trying to run mainline trains, so it gets to be kind of a fun little job. I've made up my train sheet that is very similar to what is used or what was used at CN. It shows all the stations, siding capacities, and distance between stations, although what is actual and what's on the train sheet is quite different, but it's just to give the illusion. And so when we're operating, the dispatcher will fill out, starting from the center on each side, he'll fill out an eastward train on the right side and westward trains on the left side. And then the way freights would be located at the outside edges because they run as turns. And yeah, just something to make it a little more realistic. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it's been helpful to understand how my layout fits together.